So, Melusi. She's an operator whose ability and design I actually really like. Like, she has a really cool gadget, and her design is actually pretty tight. But her lore is just all kinds of confusing. Let me see if I can explain this to you guys. Okay, so she was born near a game reserve in South Africa. Melusi spent much of her time exploring and wandering around with her friend Elna Gardiner. Time out. Now, I'm not an expert or anything, but I did some research on the Ithala Game Reserve, which is where the lore says she lived close to. And according to that, you can't just walk in and around it freely. You actually have to pay for admittance. So, living close to it, how did she get access? Did her parents work on it? No, according to her site profile, it turns out she just snuck in. She knew she shouldn't have been there, but she just snuck in anyway. So Melusi sneaks into a reserve that she shouldn't be on. That's not a good plan, but whatever. Okay, let's leave that aside. As she got older, Melusi and Elna grew a deep sense of responsibility for the animals on the reservation and wanted to prevent the awful actions of poachers. Okay, fair. Melusi ended up signing on with the South African Defense Force to broaden her skill set and to fund her ranger training. She was even offered a position in the 1st Parachute Battalion, but her life took a turn after an ambush in the Central African Republic, which left her badly wounded. Now, a couple questions about that. Who ambushed her? What was the engagement? What was the conflict? Who were they fighting? What was she doing? We don't know. We are just told that there was an ambush and she got wounded in it. I guess we just go with it. Okay, sure. But here's where it gets weird. Okay, see all that? That's just kind of like missing information. But here's where it gets weird. Her friend Elna reached out to Melusi to help her defend a reserve from poachers. So Melusi resigned from military service to return and train local women in the region to form the Inkaba Task Force Anti-Poaching Unit. So, let me make sure I followed all that. Melusi resigned from the military at the request of her friend to defend a game reserve from poachers, and she began training the local women in that area to form the Inkaba Anti-Poaching Unit. Lots of questions. On whose funding? With what equipment? Using what weaponry? On whose authority? Has the government approved this? You do know you can't just straight up start a militia on the ground without some freaking funding or backing, right? Like, the government has to approve this. You don't just get to say, you know what, ladies, let's get together. We're forming an anti-poaching unit. Like a straight up militia unit that fights against people. You know why, right? Because to the government, they have to look at this and say, okay, we just got a bunch of people in the region armed up and ready to fight poachers. That's great, but how do I know you won't turn those guns on the wrong people? And I'm not saying that they would. I'm saying that's what a government has to be concerned about. So they have to get approval. Like, who gave them approval? Did they get approval? Where did they get the funding, the equipment, the materials? Where did all this come from? And here's another question. Why just women? No, I'm serious. The lore says specifically local women. Why not men? Could the men not fight back against the poachers? Can men not do it? I don't know, guys. This lore suddenly feels like it took a sharp turn from the okay to the wait, what? Which, of course, leads to another good question. She retired from military service. She resigned from the military to protect the reserves. Fine. Okay, I'm cool with that. But then why agree to join Rainbow? Isn't that just drawing her away from what she left the military specifically to protect? Again, Nani? Why are we doing this? Like, look, let me be clear. I don't have a problem with her only joining the military to help increase her training and understanding of combat to help protect wild animals. I get that's cool. I'm fine with that. But then why join Rainbow? Why would Rainbow reach out to her, and why would she accept? It doesn't seem like they have anything in common. Now, reading the psychology report doesn't help anything either. Harry confirms that she and her friend Elna both snuck onto the reserve without permission, as I said before. We also hear that Melusi doesn't want to talk about the ambush that decimated her unit, but she, and I quote this, she says, and I quote, she seems more affected by the tragedies she witnessed on the reserve, end quote. So she's more affected by the animal tragedies on the reserve than those of her comrades. That does not bode well for her ability to form relations within Rainbow and her comrades if she holds her comrades in lower regard than her reserve. Which again begs the question, why she joined Rainbow? You know, usually in these psych reports, I'd like to hear Harry give his thoughts on who these operators would work well with, or if they could maybe form any attachments. Like, there were a few that Harry straight up said, I'd like them to get to know this operator more, they may mesh well together. But he never mentions that with Melusi, which makes me wonder, who can she work with? Who should she work with? Why would she? You know what? She honestly seems like a better contender to join Nighthaven, because she doesn't seem to have much social capabilities with the other Rainbow operatives. Again, I know that I'm kind of like repeating myself here, but why did she join? What does she get out of this? Isn't she far away from her reserve right now, where she quit to be around? I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But let's move on with that. No one cares about the lore. Let's get on to the other stuff. Her gadget. Melusi's gadget is the Banshee Sonic Defense device. Melusi starts around with three of these devices. She can plant them on any horizontal or vertical surface she can reach, and once planted, the devices become bulletproof until triggered, and they have an effective range of 4 meters. When an attacking operator enters the effective range of the device, the Banshee will emit a loud buzzing noise and cause the attacking operator to move at 75% their normal speed. The closer they get to the device, the louder the Banshee will shriek and the slower the operator will become. Once they reach 2 meters from the device, the operator will be forced to move at 50% normal speed. However, while active, the Banshee will be vulnerable to bullets and damage. This tool is effective at preventing intruders from either entering the objective zone or keeping them from escaping the objective zone. I usually like to plant it either right outside the objective zone or right in the center of it, so that once they get into the objective zone, they're stuck inside and have a lot of trouble getting away, so you can easily just start pelting them with bullets if you know where they are. Pretty useful gadget. I actually like it. Now, in terms of her guns, she has 2 primary guns and 2 secondaries. For her primary, she carries the MP5 submachine gun. It's a pretty easy to use gun with moderate recoil and low damage drop-off. Its only major drawback is its low damage per shot, which means that spraying is encouraged to ensure you down your opponent. Now, because of the recoil going up, I usually start a little low on the body and then work my way up so it eventually reaches their head. And even if it doesn't get to their head, you're at least pumping enough bullets through the main mass of the body to get them down. It's considered a weaker weapon, but I find a lot of use out of it.
Eliminated.
Her second primary is the Super 90 shotgun. We talked about this shotgun with Frost's video. It's a decent shotgun that boasts utility, but not as much range as I would like. It can down most opponents in 2 body shots at least. It does have a slight damage drop-off, as I said, but it's a decent gun in close quarters. I do recommend it. For her secondary weapons, she carries the RG-15 handgun. This handgun has the weakest damage per shot of any handgun, but it makes up for it with increased accuracy thanks to an integrated red dot sight. It has a high ammo capacity, meaning they can unload very easily to help guarantee kills, but accuracy is absolutely necessary with this gun. It takes a lot of rounds to put down the enemy. And finally, you know this gun and I know it, the ETA 12S shotgun. We've talked about this gun a few times with Frost and Mira. It's a shotgun with more utility. It's a shotgun with more utility than lethality. Better used to clear obstacles than to actually down an opponent. I'm not saying it can't. I'm saying I'd rather use it on a wall in order to break it open than to actually use it on a person.
Direct personal material requests to the office.
When it comes to Melusi, the best thing that I would say to do is be a little bit of a troll. Be a little bit of a troll under a bridge. Set up your banshees inside and near the entryways of door frames. Like either put it right next to the door or put it on a place that an attacker wouldn't think to look. Like, for example, I put it on top of a piano before in the cabin setup. I put it in a place where the attackers won't look for it, but it will affect them. So that way they're being slowed down and I'm getting the auditory warning that they're nearby, but they have trouble seeing it to stop the Banshee from working. I also like to pick a quiet spot and hide out and wait for them to come in and then start taking them out. I think that's the best way to use Melusi. She's not much of a roamer. She just doesn't have the speed or gadget for it. And that's all I have to say about Melusi. In conclusion, her gadget is good, her weapons are pretty good too, and her design is, again, awesome. I like her design, but her lore is so confusing. It's just, I don't get a lot of it. I think my biggest problem is she's one of those operators that I'm kind of asking, why are you here? Your whole modus operandi and your, priorities don't seem to be in line with what Rainbow's trying to do. Maybe there's more hidden lore somewhere that goes deeper into it, but based on what I saw on the Rainbow Six website, it just doesn't give a whole lot of why she wanted to be in Rainbow and how being in Rainbow helps her out. Maybe that's where she's getting the funding to fund her reserve unit, her unit of women. But then again, that also begs the question, why only women? Where are you getting the funding beforehand? Did the government approve you? There's just so much I don't know about Melusi, and it hurts her. But that's all I have to say this time. Next time we'll be talking about the attacking operator Thatcher, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.